Hey guys, Adriana Jimenez joined here with great boxing mind and the ring's very own Dougie Fischer. You don't like my intro to you?
No, I love the intro. I'm just saying you're going to get some negative comments underneath this video, so that's okay. No. I welcome it. I like it. Keep it up. Yeah. Keep it coming. I do. I kind of like it. Yeah.
Well, I want to get your thoughts. We're here at the Gennady Golovkin DAZN presser. He officially announced that he joined DAZN. We all kind of expected that. He's joining DAZN, who has pretty much all the middleweight talent. What are you expecting?
Right. Yeah, so they have the Ring Magazine champion, which is Canelo Alvarez, and he also holds the WBC and WBA belts. He's getting ready to fight Danny Jacobs, who holds the IBF belt, and they also have Demetrius Andrade, who holds the WBO belt. And today they announced their partnership with the People's Champion, which is Gennady Golovkin. He's next to Canelo Alvarez. He's the biggest star, or the biggest attraction in North America, the biggest star in the middleweight division. And DAZN also has Anthony Joshua, which is the biggest star, the biggest attraction in England, at least the UK, yeah. If not all of Europe, yeah.
Well, with Gennady coming to DAZN, there's so many possibilities. I was talking to him, and I just kept throwing all these names because realistically, there's so many fighters that he can take on. He has a fight for June. There's no name. Nobody wanted to say anything. I don't know if you know anything besides,
no,
you know.
They don't even have a date yet. I mean, June is the target comeback month. Yeah. They don't have a region of the country or a venue even figured out yet. They just know he's going to be fighting on DAZN. He's going to be back in a ring in June, and you know, I think the opponent is going to be quality. I mean, it's going to be solid. I think Golovkin himself, he doesn't want to fight a patsy. He wants a reason to train, right?
What possibility do you think that he can take on WBO champ Demetrius Andrade? I
think that's a bit premature. I mean, I get comments via Twitter and Instagram saying, hey, ask him about Demetrius Andrade, and my reply is, it's a 6-fight deal. So I'm sure Andrade's in queue. He's got 6 fights, man. So Andrade obviously is in that mix. He's undefeated, like Gennady Golovkin. He was an amateur standout. He was an Olympian. He was a world amateur champion, like Golovkin. If Golovkin gets in the ring with Andrade, you're talking 2 world amateur champions there. Contrasting styles, it's kind of interesting. But I don't think it needs to be rushed for June. You know, and honestly, Andrade, since signing with DAZN and with Eddie Hearn, he's been active. He's got a hold of that WBO belt. But who did he beat for that WBO belt? Now, he was supposed to fight Billy Joe Saunders, but Saunders had the positive drug test, and he abdicated that WBO title. And so Andrade wound up fighting a complete unknown for that vacant title. So yeah, he's got the belt, but well, who did you beat? And then he defended the title recently. And I got to be honest with you, I'm the editor of Ring Magazine. I can't even remember who did he fight last? Who was that guy? You don't remember either. You cover boxing. You come to all these things, right? Well, what does that tell you? We're in boxing. We cover boxing. We eat, sleep, and drink boxing, and we can't remember the names of the last 2. I can't remember the brother that he beat. He was an African dude, right?
I remember that one because I had to practice it, Kautundokwa.
Oh, good. Yeah, that was it. But or Kandakwa. Yes. How did you say it?
Kautundokwa.
Okay, I'm not even going to try. But what I'm saying is, we're boxing people, and we can't tell you who Andrade beat. And it's not his fault. I'm not ripping Demetrius Andrade, but I'm saying he's got some work to do. He needs to fight somebody with a name. And I know Andrade would be like, yeah, that's what I want to do. Golovkin's got a name, and I get that, but I'm saying Golovkin has established himself. He's not just as a name, but as a premier attraction. And Andrade's not there yet. I think for Andrade to have some leverage, you know, and I know he's got a title, but like I said, Triple G's the People's Champion. There's a lot of folks who thought that he won both fights against Canelo Alvarez. Or at the very least, like I saw it, the rematch, I had that a draw. Well, the champion keeps his belts in the draw, doesn't it? So a lot of people, they still recognize Golovkin as the man of the middleweight division. Andrade's not the man of the middleweight division. I think he's worthy of challenging the man, but not next. the fight makes more sense if they could build that up a little bit. And I think also Andrade has to make up for some lost time, because for a long time he was one of these really inactive American fighters, and now he's getting used to fighting on a more regular schedule. It's going to make him better. It's going to make him a better fighter, and that's good, you know, for when he gets his shot at either Golovkin or maybe the Canelo Jacobs winner, because Canelo has stated that he wants to be an undisputed champion. So, I mean, that's an opportunity for him. So, I mean, for Andrade and his fans, just be patient. His time. All he has to do, remain undefeated, remain busy, hold on to that WBO belt, because that's his lottery ticket. I
think what a lot of fans and a lot of people were, you know, want to see, that don't want to play the waiting game, they just want to go straight to it. They would like to see June Gennady with Andrade. You know, that winner takes on the winner of Canelo Jacobs in September, and then just like quick.
The Undisputed Champ, yeah. Undisputed's great. It's hard to do. It's hard to do these days. There's very few undisputed champions. I mean, we've got the cruiserweight champ, Alexander Usyk. We've got Cecilia Brækhus, the women's welterweight champ. I think that's it. We're about to have a women's middleweight champ that holds all 4 major belts. But man, it's rare, because you know, every belt has their own rules and they're mandatories, and they're impatient. You know, they don't want to let you wait. Let me go do this fight over here. Like, no, you got to fight this guy, and then, you know, they want you to fight mandatories around the same time. It's real hard to hold on to those belts.
It is.
So that's why it just doesn't happen very often. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens with all of that.
We've got the stage is set though for an undisputed champion, because DAZN has all of the belts plus one of the biggest stars in all the sport, who happens to be in middleweight, Gennady Golovkin.
We'll see what happens with that. But even just talking to Gennady, you know, and he mentioned it himself that there are other names. There are many names in DAZN. We have Callum Smith at 168. You know, yeah, yeah, he can take
the WBA belt.
That would be, you know, an awesome fight to see. Dimitri Bivol willing to come down to 168 to take him on. Or even,
he looked good in his last fight. I heard people kind of criticizing him in the Joe Smith Jr. fight, but Joe Smith Jr. is huge, and he's tough. You know, he's not a guy you're just going to rub out, man. You know, so I thought Bivol, I thought he acquitted himself quite well. It's good for him to go 12 rounds a lot, because he's learning. He's a smart guy, and he's just going to continue to get better. And I look at his bone structure and his physique, and he does look like a small light heavyweight. Like, he could come down for the right fight. So, and that would be, I mean, him against any of the standouts at super middleweight would be very interesting.
How does a fight between Golovkin and Callum Smith or Dimitri Bivol play out?
I think they're hard fights for the 37-year-old former middleweight champ, because they're giant. I mean, Callum Smith, I mean, to me, he looks bigger than Bivol. I mean, he is a giant super middleweight. He's got a lot of skills. He's got a good body attack. He's strong. He doesn't have the pedigree. You know, he wasn't the amateur standout that Golovkin has. Golovkin has that incredible amateur background, and he's more experienced as a professional. And he's been in with much better fighters than Callum Smith has. But Smith is also, he's got youth on his side, and he's just now peaking. He's just now coming into his own. So it's a very interesting fight. And I think it would be, I think of the 2 potential matchups at 168 for Golovkin, I think Golovkin versus Callum Smith would be the more entertaining fight. I think they would mix it up a little bit more. You know, I love British fighters, man, because they're kind of, I think Bob Arum once called them masochists, man, because they'll fight anybody and they'll take that ass whipping, and I think, you know, for the most part they want to entertain the fans. Whereas Bivol, he's pretty scientific in there, you know, like he kind of made his name as this dude with a hammer, and he's got a good right hand. He's got a really educated jab, but I think his best asset might be his feet. Yeah, he's gliding in and out, so yeah, Golovkin versus Bivol, it might be Golovkin on the hunt, and that gets tougher the older you get. And let's remember, Bivol is in his 20s. He's just now entering his athletic prime. So
another really, really young guy who has been calling out both Canelo and Golovkin is Jaime Munguia.
Oh, yeah?
154, but he's huge for 154. He's a,
listen, if we had same-day weigh-ins, he would not be a junior middleweight. He would be a middleweight. Yeah, I mean, you look at his height, his bone structure. That's a frame that was built to carry 160 pounds, maybe even 168 pounds. You know, it's funny, somebody was talking about dream fights at junior middleweight, and they're like, man, we need a unification. Jarrett Hurd versus Jaime Munguia. And I say, you know, this is an example where the title belts kind of ruin a good fight. And they say, how do you figure? I said, because they hold those title belts, it's significant for them to unify those titles, but it also means they both have to weigh in at 154, and I think that process debilitates them to an extent. They can get away with it because they're young. But both of those guys, Hurd and Munguia, probably would be better suited if they were weighing in at like 158 or 160. Maybe even like 163, like a small... No, I mean it. Like, I think they would be bigger, stronger dudes come fight night if they could weigh their real weight. You know, so, yeah, obviously, Munguia can be a force at middleweight. Is he ready for Golovkin? No, I don't think so. Not this year. Not from what I saw last year against Liam Smith from England, and not from what I saw against the Japanese cat. Inoue was cracking him over and over again. Right hands. And he's pretty basic. Like, even in Japan, he's not known as one of the better fighters, that dude. He's not that Inoue. He's not the monster. He's the junior middleweight Inoue. But he brought the ruckus. He was just tough. And he was able to put hands on Munguia. Munguia's still learning. You know, we got to remember, he's very young. I think if he's 22, he just turned 22.
I think he just turned 21. Right?
No,
I think
he was 21. I think he's 22.
22? Okay. Still very young. Still very young. And people, you know, they bring up the CANELO question to him or to, you know, to everybody else. And everyone's like, yes, it's a good fight, but give him a year, give him 2 years or something like that.
He's got time. Yeah. I mean, he should be allowed to learn. And I know people say, well, he's got a belt, but I'm like, there's 4 of them, man. You know, it's like there's 4 of them. And yeah, we're in an era where a prospect can win a world title, can get ranked and get a title shot and win it. And, you know, there's always circumstances to that. I mean, the guy that Munguia beat for that title wasn't really a junior middleweight. You know, he was a guy who started at 140 and was even a little bit chinny at welterweight. I'm talking about Saddam Ali, you know. So it's like, okay, yeah, he's got a belt. He's still learning. You know, he was Ring Magazine's Prospect of the Year for 2017. So he was, you know, he got an opportunity. He went for it, made the most of it. He's a world title holder. He's becoming very popular. And there's always room in boxing for a Tijuana standout. You know, I love it. And I like him a lot, and I like watching him fight. But he's not, I'm telling you right now, 2019, Jaime Munguia is not ready for Canelo or Danny Jacobs or Gennady Golovkin or Demetrius Andrade. I'm telling you right now. But if he fights him, if he fights those guys this year, good for him. Yeah, I wish him the best.
Good luck to him. We'll see what fights are coming up. But what about this fight right here?
It's coming up, huh?
Fight week. Fight week for Errol Spence versus Mikey Garcia.
Are you going to Dallas?
You know what? I am not.
I'm not either.
I'll talk to you about it. I'm actually working with Fox as well, okay. With the production side, so working that out. So, okay. I want to be there. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, no, I'll be watching. It's, you know, fights at AT&T Stadium are really special because that venue it's modern, it's gigantic, it dwarfs anything I've ever been in. And so I'm really hoping that they fill the venue because that makes fans. You know, if you can get 50,000 people to a fight and they get a good fight, you've made 50,000 hardcore fight fans in one night. And that's real important to the sport.
I want to pick your brain. I said that you have great boxing knowledge. So, Errol Spence, Mikey Garcia moving up 2 divisions. Where do I even start? How do you break down this mega fight?
You know, it's one of those fights where I didn't like it. When they first announced it, I'm like, what? I'm like, wait a minute. These guys are part of the PBC stable. Like, and I know there's a Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, there's Danny Garcia. There's some good I mean, and they just signed Manny Pacquiao. There's some top welterweights, including fellow title holders. Why isn't Spence, who's at the peak of his career? I mean, these guys aren't like in their early 20s or even mid-20s anymore. I think Sean Porter is now 30, right? And I think Spence maybe 28, 29. Same thing with Thurman. Same thing, you know, with Danny Garcia. They're not young men anymore. I mean, they're young, but, I mean, they're starting to leave their athletic prime. Why aren't they fighting each other? And I know Thurman fought Porter and fought Garcia, but he has no momentum in his career because he's one time a year. So, I mean, it's like, you know, he's had injuries and he got married and, you know, whatever. He's going on spirit journeys over in the Orient, and that's all good, but, you know, these guys are the top welterweights, you know, along with Terrence Crawford, this cat. And now there's politics. You know, he has promotional and network affiliations that make it difficult for him to fight in Errol Spence. But within the PBC universe, I'm like, man, like, let's get these top. Let's see Spence in with a top welterweight, not a top lightweight. But as the fight has gotten closer, and we see interviews with Mikey Garcia, and we see footage of him training at the Snack Gym, and we sent our own Cynthia Conte there in the Bay Area to watch him train and to get the whole routine. And like, man, this guy is serious. And we always knew he's serious. And we know he knows how to fight. And we know he's experienced, 39-0. And he's good enough to have won major world titles from featherweight to junior welterweight. And if he's not the best lightweight in the world, he's a close second to Vasily Lomachenko, right? So you start to think, well, if he can put on enough effective muscle mass, not overdo it, and still have his speed, have his wits about him, you think, well, what kind of game plan is this guy? Because we know he's cerebral. We know he's a technician in there, and he's a great counterpuncher. And he's really a complete fighter. And then you start looking at Spence's resume, and you're like, well, who's the best guy you fought? Don't you think hands down it's Kell Brook? The toughest guy that Spence has fought and the toughest fight that he's ever had? Like the one opponent that's had asked questions of Spence in the ring. It's Kell Brook, right? But Kell Brook had been away from the ring. He had gone up to middleweight, fought our boy Triple G, got his face broken in that fight. And then he lost all that weight because he just packed on pure muscle to fight Triple G. And then he had to lose that weight, went back down to 147. So there was questions of the weight drain, the inactivity, the facial injuries, all that kind of stuff going in there. So you even have to ask yourself, did Errol Spence fight the best version of Kell Brook? And does Kell Brook compare as a fighter, at least in a pound-for-pound sense, with Mikey Garcia? Quick answer, no. So it's like, well, shoot, man. Maybe Mikey's going to ask some questions of Errol Spence in there. And I think he will. But I still favor the bigger man because I think Errol Spence is not just a bigger man. He's also a good boxer. He had an extensive amateur career, a better amateur career than Mikey Garcia. And he was a U.S. Olympian, 2012 games. And he could box. Dude, you know, he's not flat-footed in there. He's got a good jab, got good hand speed. He's a southpaw. So he's not just big. He's not just a bigger dude. He acquits himself quite well in there. So I'm looking for, I just hope the fight's competitive. I don't want to see Mikey get hurt. I don't want to see that. So, I mean, if it starts to become grueling and punishing, I hope his corner does the right thing. And I know it's hard for them to do that because the Garcias are very proud. And they're not just proud, they're proud boxing people. They're a boxing family. And it's hard for them. It's you know, and I know this because I covered Robert's career. It was hard for him to quit. It was hard, you know, he could be in a brutal fight. I've even seen him in brutal sparring sessions where like the nose looks broken and blood everywhere. They don't stop, you know? No, and it's like the old man, Eduardo, came from that migrant worker background where it's like, that's work, that's life. It's hard. And you don't quit. You can't quit. You can't, you know, I'm sure Eduardo says, well, if I quit when things got tough picking strawberries or whatnot, we didn't have food on the table. I never quit, you know. They got that mentality, man. So I hope, but they're a little more well off now. They've had some money for a while, so yeah, maybe now, maybe yeah, like, you know, if it gets to that point, and we don't know if it will, they'll do the right thing.
So speaking of the corner, so if you were in Mikey's corner, if you were in Errol's corner, what would you tell him to do? What does each fighter have to do to come out victorious?
I'm not a trainer, but I mean, I think counter-punching is going to be really important for Mikey. I think he's going to have to get some respect early on. He's got to get into Errol's head, and he's got to do it two ways. Not one or the other either. He does have to get some respect on his power, so Errol's going to think about what's coming at him, right? And then you befuddle him with your punch selection, and your variety, and your versatility. But you got to get that respect physically first. Maybe through the body, maybe a counter shot, a hook over that southpaw jab, if you can get in there and do that. And then you got to befuddle him. Then you got to try to bewilder, not physically overwhelm. Be physical enough to get respect, and then make him think. And try to make it a thinking man's game. If not chess, make it checkers. Don't make it bloody knuckles. Don't play that game. No, play, you know, make it on that level, not a physical level, because maybe overall Mikey's got the higher boxing IQ. It remains to be seen. I mean, that's my whole thing. I'm sticking with Spence, the favorite, because I'm saying Spence is a good boxer. You know, Spence is smart. He's not stupid. He's not a, you know, he's not a slugger. He's not just some plotter or some pressure fighter. He can pressure. It's worked for him because he's really strong and he's a big dude. But he can. I've seen him box. I remember watching him in the Olympics, thinking that guy can box. You know, good on his feet, good jab. You know, so we'll see. It might be an intense chess match. That will be interesting. If it is, though, my hunch is that the size and power of Spence will tell over the duration of the fight, and he'll kind of take over the tail end of the fight.
We will definitely see this Saturday night. Dougie, thank you so much for taking the time and breaking down all of these fights. There's so many more. We could stay here hours and keep talking, but make sure you guys catch these the Ring magazines. Beautiful. There we go. Terrence Crawford. I don't have any yet.
You don't have either of these?
No, I don't. No, I need to get the hookup. Thank you. There we go. There you go. You guys make sure Terrence Crawford, Spence Garcia. There you go.
All right. Keep them in the bags. If you want collectibles, I'll give you another copy of each. You keep in the bag like a nerd comic book collector. But no, definitely open these bags up and read them. There's good stuff in there.
I will. I will. Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And till next time, I'll pick your brain next time too. Thank you so much.